Hi, everyone. We are Grandma's Quartet. My name is Molly, and today we are going to be talking about Frederick Jameson's The Aesthetics of Singularity and Banksy's Exit Through the Gift Shop.
I'm Mars. I use they, them pronouns.
I'm Demetra, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Corey, and I use they, them pronouns.
Right. And I'm Molly. I use she, her pronouns. Our first quote that I picked out from Jameson's reading is art today is generated by a single bright idea, which combining form and content can be repeated and infinitum until the artist's name takes on a kind of content on its own. And I thought that this related to the movie really well, especially Terry and the phrase of that sentence that says takes on a kind of content on its own. I feel like where he says like generated by a single bright idea, that would be Banksy's like telling Terry after he created that documentary. He was like, oh, you should go start an art show or do your own art street art. And I feel like that was the bright idea. And then Terry didn't really, he wasn't really like a start off, he just kind of was like, oh, Banksy, quote me, I'm going to put on a thing and I'm just going to do a bunch of art and put it up. And I feel like his like character, just his becoming to fame was definitely a kind of content on its own and not really like an art form that he became known for.
Nice. I actually, before I share my actual quote, I wanted to share something that Banksy said when he was talking about what Terry, is that how, is it just Terry? But
Mr.
Like
Brainwash. CHI. Yeah, sorry, we should say Mr. Brainwash.
Should we?
Or whatever. I don't know. I don't care.
Think it matters. But Banksy said about him getting really popular, he said, maybe it means art is a bit of a joke. And I just really liked that because I remember in class we were talking about how postmodernity is like cleverly stupid. It's like they know it's stupid on purpose, and we like it because it's stupid. And that's just kind of what Banksy's quote reminded me of. And going off of that, one of my quotes is about like galleries and museums and the way they're changing in the postmodern world. And Jameson says, in the galleries and museums, we confront interesting and I don't know how to pronounce this word, guys. I was struggling earlier. Inimitable. Okay. We confront interesting and inimitable combinations of photography, performance, video, sculpture, which can no longer be classified under any of the old generic terms. And this quote really reminded me of like street art in general, and the way they like continue to make new mediums. For example, Banksy's bent phone booth, the like red phone booth that he like bent in half. It's like, it's a broken phone booth. That's not what you think of when you think of art. You think, oh, it's a painting. It's this like watercolor by Monet, like, but this like telephone booth sold for, I don't even know. I don't want to know how much money. And it kind of brings up the ideas of pastiche, like taking all these different things and putting them together into something new and postmodern. And it also kind of reminds me of the idea we were talking about of high concept art, where you're like, okay, I'm going to bend a phone booth in half and put it back together. And it's like, okay, you can say that, but then you have to go and do it. And that's like a whole huge process in and of itself. So those two concepts, I guess, really go together in that quote, in that example.
That is true. It's very interesting how, like, you wouldn't think of it in itself as art. It's just like two pieces of a phone booth. You take something and turn it into something else, though. And that act of performance is in art in itself. And so that reminded me of my quote as well, where Jameson says, "New kind of production is emerging whose ultimate possibilities we do not yet fully understand. And hopefully the interrogation of the culture of postmodernity, taking the word culture in its broadest acceptation, will be of some use in exploring the new moment in which we all live." And so this new moment, first of all, taking a phone booth and then welding it, that's taking the old, that's pastiching, and that's taking the old and the new, combining it together to make something different. And that the instance that reminded me of, though, was when Banksy was putting the dolls in Disneyland rides. And it was very much not understood by everybody else. Like, first of all, a pretty big misunderstanding was Mr. Brainwash getting interrogated, despite not actually being the one to do it, but he was there and filming it. Even like when he was being interrogated and like deleted all the evidence secretly on his camera, that was pretty silly as well. It was just this whole silly moment. Yeah. And so again, like it's a creation of an event pretty much, and it's not something that everyone understood. Everyone was freaking out. People were screaming, stopping the rides, like shutting the whole park down pretty much. And that's just something that needs to be more dug into, I guess, to say, and explored to in this more recent moment that we live in now. And then again, it will keep evolving into post modernity, maybe. Who knows if that's what we'll call it.
I kind of just like had something quickly pop into my head when you all were talking about like the telephone booth, and how Usmar said like, I don't even want to know how much like it would cost. And I remember talking in class when we were talking about how like cost of artwork gauges its value, and like it doesn't matter how like much effort you put into it. It's like if they label it a price, then like that's the value of it. And that leads all back to capitalism, which is like a whole separate like part of Jameson's reading. But I'm sorry.
It's okay. Can I say that guy's stuff, Mr. Brainwash, ugly. I didn't like it. It's dumb. Like, I don't know if he was like the first person to make art in that style or something, and that's why it was such a big deal. But even that style in and of itself is not good. I'm sorry, that is my own hot take, and I don't think it should be that highly priced. And I also have a quote from Jameson about that, but it looks like Molly has something to say first. So,
well, I was just about to say, do you know how angry it made me when they were talking to one of Terry's Mr. Brainwash's workers, and he was like, yeah, like there's like this little mini book, and he was like, yeah, he like just wrote post-it notes about like ideas of art he wanted. And I was like, are you kidding? I can come up with some random bullshit too. Like, we all can do that. I feel like, and this is also gonna go into my literary quote that I just remembered, but like the institutions like that made that happen, like that just made me so angry, because I was like, I can fucking do that.
And I'm sorry, I'm bringing up my quote right now because
yeah,
it's like
go Demetra, go.
really perfect. Mine says, in postmodernity, we no longer exist in a world of human scale. Institutions certainly have, in some sense, become autonomous, but in other ways, they transcend the dimensions of any individual. Institutions have a direct, like, correlation. I forgot what I.
Yeah, no, I think
I saw the connection.
Do you want to go, Molly, or should I?
I forgot my.
No, you can say your quote.
Yeah, just that institutions have like a grasp on like what art is and what it isn't, and they're like
what it's worth, like basically like what it's worth, like money wise, and That's the value that they put on it. And like
Yeah.
people are like, this is so beautiful. I'm like, actually it's ugly. So right,
Can
you
I
just like it
add
because
something
it's
to
in this
that?
like, yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
what's that?
I don't know if y'all have seen, there was a Banksy painting at an auction and it sold for like over $1 million. And then after it was sold, it shredded because there was like a shredder in the picture frame. And then people were saying like that almost adds to the value of it. What do
He's
we
a
think
king for
about
that.
What?
He's a king for that because
Oh my God,
I think he
yes.
said fuck capitalism.
Exactly.
He said you're gonna spend your fake money and get nothing.
Yes.
But yeah, so I have a quote about, well, does someone else want to go first? Because I sorry, I can go. I actually, both
it
my
not
quotes
like
apply here, but
relative?
it's
Is it
just
like
that
not that
both of my quotes apply here. So I just don't know which one to pick, but I'm just gonna pick one.
Just, yeah.
you can do both? Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So Jameson says, I began to realize that it was a globalization that formed, as it were, the substructure of postmodernity and constituted the economic base of which, in the largest sense, postmodernity was the superstructure. So basically this quote is saying that globalization and like capitalism and like interconnectedness between the world creates the stage for postmodernism and like the stage for modernism and contemporary art to be like interacting and creating new things the way it is. And then my like movie moment, I guess, was just from the very beginning when they were talking about virality and the way that like the internet is what made street art explode as a medium and as like a form of art. And it just really struck me as like postmodernity interchangeably with globalization, like in action, like that is exactly what Jameson was talking about, I think, because without the internet, they wouldn't have things to comment on or ways to share it.
Yeah, I like my my next quote has like definitely relates to that. It says, Jameson says, postmodern philosophy is mostly associated with two fundamental principles, namely anti-foundationalism and anti-essentialism, which I feel like institutions and like social media and all of that like is all of that anti-foundationalism. Like you don't really need a foundation, you know, like Mr. Brainwash, he didn't really need like, he didn't have like all of this buildup, you know, like I was talking about before, how he kind of created a content on his own. And yeah, I feel like the institutions that like Demetra was talking about with her quote just shows that like art is like completely like whatever people define art is. Like it doesn't have to be that, and everything is like ruled by capitalism.
Yeah, and like the other thing we were talking about in class, we were talking about like some people say like postmodern artwork, like does this count as real art? But like just as you said, like art, at least to me, is like whatever like you consider art, whether that's like literally an object in front of you, like a painting on your wall, or like a picture you took. Like art is completely like, I don't know, I'm trying to look for a word, but
Subjective.
Yes, subjective was the word I was looking for.
Yeah. And I like that you said that art is whatever people want art to be. And I also think that art is whatever like creates an emotional response. So like the shark in the what is it? It was a shark suspended
It was like in
something preservative. The shark hanging out.
Yeah, I remember it was like a combination of two things.
Yeah.
What was the
And
title of it? Because it was like in the title.
Molly looks that up.
It was like, sorry.
I believe it's sharks suspended in formaldehyde.
Okay.
Yes.
And then it's like the something about death in something living.
It's just like the like viewing death while you're still living and trying to like conceptualize like death basically, but like some people consider that art, other people are just like, that's literally just a shark that's being
and
preserved.
like the way we were saying that about the phone booth earlier, like it's literally a broken phone booth, bro. That is all it is, but it's art. Like it does create a response and people talk about it, and it is art.
Even if you don't consider it.
It's like breaking people's ideas of art, like metaphorically, you take it, you bend it, you make something new with it.
Mhm.
People's ideas
Postmodernity.
of art are changing. Yeah. And that's what postmodernity is about.
I think someone already said this, but like cleverly stupid. I
Yeah.
think Mars, you already
Mhm.
said that, but like I know Hugh talked about how he had a shirt that said pants, I think.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, that's postmodernity.
And like sorry, would you say something worse?
I was gonna ask if someone had another quote, but is that what you were gonna do?
No, but I was gonna say like in my quote, there was like a large paragraph that I like wanted to write down, but I like didn't really need all of it. But like later in this quote, he says something about struggle against how like postmodern philosophy is a struggle against any normative idea of human nature. And I just feel like what we were just talking about, like art being like, what is art? It's so subjective. That is because of like so long of having to push back against, or like now like doing all this crazy other art, like that is a result of that, if that makes any sense.
No, I think are you talking about like historically like art has like changed? Because I know like
Yeah, I just feel like because like it's so different now because of like the institutions and like the way that Mr. Brainwash was gonna, I'm sorry, Mars, the way that Mr. Brainwash was like just came about, like that just like would not have happened at all if it was not this time. Anyway, what were you gonna say, Mars?
I was gonna say I have a direct quote from Jameson about the way art itself, like the definition has changed. He said, "We might say that just as the species called oil painting has disappeared, so also the generic universal of art itself has disintegrated, leaving in place the unclassifiable, I'm so sorry. The unclassifiable combinations we confront in an institutional space, which alone confers them on the status of art." So that not only relates to the fact that, you know, postmodernity is changing and interchanging the definition of art, it also points to the idea we were talking about of like institutions having a say on what is and isn't art and like what is valuable. And that did remind me of the part in the movie where he was just like kind of what Molly was saying. He was literally just like pointing them around and like showing them where to put things and being like, "Hey bro, can you make a giant can? Can you make it for me?" And then he was like, "Yep, this is mine," because I thought of it. So yeah, just kind of classifying things that art as art that were not art previously.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of something else that what you just said reminds me of something else that Jameson said, which is like also I think like Demetra's quote was like right before this quote where it says like, "This is indeed why it has become appropriate to speak of it." Okay, I'm not sure, I crossed it out because I did not want to say this quote. But anyway, he's just saying that art has now become a strategy for producing an event.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, you know, like that one time thing, and where it says, so yeah, that reminded me of that.
Does someone have a quote about that? I feel like we were talking.
Oh, I had a quote about like how it's not meant for like the future, and it's not even meant to be like permanent like in this
Something
time.
about posterity.
It's just rather like now, and like it's like a temporary like sort of like situation. That's what that
Did you
other
already read that one?
I didn't read that one yet.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The installation and its kindred productions are made not for posterity nor even for the permanent collection, but rather for the now and for a temporality that may be rather different from the old modernist kind.
Yeah.
So it's just basically saying how like modernity was like, I don't know how to explain it like other than like permanent, because like street art can be painted over or like whatever, but like paintings, again going back to the institutions, like paintings and like museum are usually preserved, like you can't take pictures of it sometimes, like
Yeah.
I'm getting off topic, but like street art is more postmodern in the terms of it being temporary and not permanent, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I even wrote down something Banksy said in the documentary. He said street art has a short lifespan, so you need to document it. I think he was saying that like when he said why he let Terry like record his stuff or why he thought it was important or something. But that definitely relates to Demetra's quote and like example about street art being temporary and like an event that people like go there to see it. It's like, oh, there's a Banksy painting on the wall, like go look, like go take a picture, instead of, oh, I'm gonna go look at this painting that's been hung up for 100 years. And yeah.
I have a similar quote about temporality and the like. It is, there is to be found the historically strange and unique phenomenon of a volatilization of temporality, a disillusion of past and future alike, a kind of contemporary, sorry, this one's a long, contemporary imprisonment in the presence, ... Also collective loss of historicity in such a way that the future fades away as unthinkable or unimaginable, while the past itself turns into dusty images and Hollywood type pictures of actors in wigs. And so dusty images made me think of Terry's dusty boxes of hundreds of tapes and how he was documenting all of these moments throughout his life. It was like an addiction, like drugs, I believe he referred to it. And because after his mother died, was it? He decided he wants to capture all these things in like a permanent collection, but then he doesn't even want to look at them. So it's like this imprisonment in the form of tapes in boxes. And then this, with the future fading away as unthinkable or unimaginable, what do we think about that?
I think it can kind of be shown by something you said earlier when you were like, or maybe was that you? I don't know. Someone was like, what's postmodernity? I don't even know. Like,
Oh, that was me.
We are at such a spot of claiming and reclaiming and pulling back and putting new things together from the past that we, you know, as Hugh said in class, maybe are even done with new things and are just going to keep recycling the old eras forever. So I think that can kind of speak to that. And I also, I'm glad you brought up the tapes being like old and forgotten for a while, because in a way the film itself is postmodernist because like he went back, he was not intending to do anything with these tapes, and he went back and was like, or was it Banksy that did it in the end? He was like, I'm gonna make an actual film out of these, all of these clips of all these cool famous street artists, like we're gonna make an actual film, because the one he made was garbage. But so it's reaching back into the past and making something new, using past items.
Yeah, it was, I think both Banksy then and Terry are responsible for that kind of concept, in that they both took all this past footage and made it into something different. Although Banksy's was arguably a better product, but still, it's Terry's take on art. And like, he didn't even want to take these. He's like, I need to go through all this footage right now. And it took him like 6 months. And Banksy's like, no, I think we need to put some more time into this and make something that's marketable to more people. And that ties again back into globalization and capitalism and how all value is determined by institutions and such.
This is a stupid question, but is is Exit Through the Gift Shop, is that like the documentary that Banksy was like trying to make with all those films? Like, is this what we're watching, or is that?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. That
Because
makes
we
it
saw
cooler.
like clips of Terry's and it was just terrible. So I think that the documentary, because he's the director, so I think that this must be his attempt at doing that.
I think if it is, it's pretty dope that he like made the whole film about like Terry's story.
And then at the end, he was like, Banksy will not be helping any underground artists or whatever he said.
That was so funny. That was so funny.
I love that Banksy was kind of like, he knew that it was bad. He was like, I didn't really know what my quote was going to do. Like, I didn't really think it was going to be all that. And like, is it stupid? Yes. Is it dumb? Yes. But that's it. Did everyone share 2 quotes?
Think so. Yeah.
Wow. I even shared 3. This was a productive
That's so
meeting.
cool.
Yeah. I think we're getting close to the end. Does anyone have any last minute comments they want to bring up about postmodernity or?
I've got one more quote possibly to bring up. It's in our postmodern age, we not only use technology, we consume it, and we consume its exchange value, its price, along with its purely symbolic overtones. That very much connects to a lot of what we'd covered today with technology, like Mara, as you said, social media, and like with the Banksy painting I mentioned earlier that shredded itself. And that was very much on the news. And there was the display with the elephant that garnered a lot of attention, that ended up on a lot of news. There were interviewers interviewing each other on the news. And so that spread everywhere and very much helped some takeoff from that gallery.
I'll be honest, I really like that movie, but I didn't like the elephant part.
I don't feel good about the elephant.
No,
Was
not
that
at all.
Banksy's thing? Did Banksy do the elephant?
I think it was Terry.
Okay,
I'm
I was gonna say,
not
I don't think
positive.
Banksy's that stupid.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I feel like he's very anti-capitalist, anti-bad things.
Yes.
And I feel like bringing a live elephant in and making it your little show pony and painting it with children's paint, I don't know what kind of sick gesture or what kind of like political, I don't know. I thought it was dumb.
I think it was either, I don't think it was Terry's though, because it showed it at the beginning.
Oh,
Terry's was at the end, but I don't know whose it was. But I didn't think it was Banksy's either. I don't know, but I hated it.
yeah.
I'll go check whose it was if I can find it.
Okay. But yeah.
In the meantime, we can think of something else to wrap up with.
I think we're wrapped. I think we're just waiting for your last.
Okay, it was Banksy.
It was Banksy. Fuck
Yeah.
that guy. I don't know why he did that.
With the elephant in the room. So
Yeah.
silly. That was
Silly
his
guy.
show
Okay.
in LA. Jeez.
Wait, was it like a Louis Vuitton design? Wasn't it?
What?
No, I think it might have just been like a weird, like, I think it was just
Okay.
gold little like triangles or something.
Oh yeah, that's interesting though. I hadn't considered if it was Louis Vuitton. That'd be kind of funny.
I just, I don't know why I thought it was, but if it was, I was about to say that's a whole other thing against the institutions. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
that'd be
right.
clever.
What a great discussion about postmodernity and
Wow.
Exit Through the Gift Shop, Banksy's documentary from 2010. Wow. Great job, guys. See you next
Yay.
week.
See you next
Bye.
week. Bye.
Bye, guys.